guys, welcome back to Hear Me Out. I'm E.
I'm Dee.
And today we're going to review episode 16 of the Real Housewives of Potomac. This episode was called Boiling Point. And I don't even know what this episode was, to be honest. I saw a boiling point, which made no sense. But we're going to read an article from Vulture. Of course, provide you our very insightful opinions, and we'll go on from there.
Okay, so like she said, Vulture, and if y'all have been watching any of our other recaps, you know that's our go-to article for the recaps. So I have failed miserably in letting you guys know who has been writing these articles. So according to the byline here, it is Shamira Ibrahim, who is a freelancer for Vulture. Okay, so the episode again is called Boiling Point. Let's get started. These are Shamir Ibrahim's words, y'all. Before
Wise
you
words, might I add.
wise. Yes, we definitely love it here. Okay, so of all the weeks for the women to step up to the plate and deliver, it's a shame that Potomac had to compete with the Academy Awards because 16 weeks in, we're finally getting episodes with some meat on them. We had conflict resolution, conflict escalation, crabs, and lasered vaginas. Acknowledging that a successful episode this season requires clearing a very low bar. I had an all around good time this past Sunday. Let's dive in. So, Kiarna, guys, I finally know how to pronounce her name. Kiarna might have joined the cast partway into the season, but she is establishing herself quite quickly, filming with Wendy and Candace at her med spa business. The simple fact that she is promoting a business that is already healthy and active puts her two steps beyond some of the more established cast members who seem to rotate through profit-making concepts each season. Was the blurred out shot of Candace getting her vagina lasered while Wendy and Kiarna watched a bit over the top? Absolutely. Did Kiarna also sell me on the idea of getting lasered as a relatively pain-free experience? Also, yes. Ultimately, this scene was to serve a bit of damage control and reset Trio's established narrative. Candace and Wendy were able to reestablish that they are on good terms with their friend despite any early hiccups on the DR trip. Wendy was able to remind everyone that she is indeed still working on her talk show. Candace was able to slip in that she's planning on gunning for Robin yet again. This time around, she has latched onto the fact that Robin used the word defamation, which she claims is loaded with the implication of building a legal case. I really don't think Robin has the wherewithal to take her grievances with Candace that far, but it would be irrelevant if she ever did. Robin or Juan didn't experience any material or compensatory harm that at the hand of Candace's flip-flopping screeds. Perhaps Candace is lashing out because she fears landing in a legal proceeding over this show for the third time, but the grounds for making a scene out of this are fairly slim. So, Charisse, we move on now to another housewife, explains the reality of the situation between Robin and Candace quite well, stating that Candace allowed social media to take precedence over a real friendship. However complicit Robin was or unintentionally seemed to be in last season's storylines, the punishment was far exceeding the crime. Her husband is now regularly humiliated on camera, and Candace is using every platform available to reinforce that Robin is a bad person to a point of absurdity. Both Kiarna and Charisse point out that what we have seen with our own eyes. Despite all of this public fuming, Candace harbors a lot of love for Robin, but isn't willing to drop her grudge and move towards reconciliation. This results in erratic arguments that pivot from despair at Robin being unwilling to engage to overstated aggression at minor slights, the latter of which we see as Charisse's crab boil event. So, before we go further into the recap, let's discuss this whole Robin Candace situation, where we are, where we think we are, how we feel about this craziness.
Yeah, I think it's just nuts at this point. Like they've been saying it for how many episodes now that they're not going to be friends? Why do people keep trying to make them friends? It doesn't even make sense. Robin has no interest. Like I said in other episodes, Robin didn't do anything wrong. And she defended what's his name?
One.
Chris.
Oh, Chris. Yeah, Chris.
She defended Chris against her bestie, Giselle,
Mhm.
was pretty consistent in her point of view. For Candace to be so upset with her for a reason that I don't understand, just pushing this narrative,
Mhm.
the Robin Dixon narrative, trying to hide it. I
Yeah.
think it's preposterous at this point. Robin clearly wasn't trying to do that. She was just trying to hide what Juan Dixon was doing, because we already know he's Juan Dixon.
Right.
Um, can't she's just harping on this for no reason.
Yeah.
And her being upset that Robin sent personal, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but her being upset that Robin sent personal text messages to this podcaster. Why is she even upset? Y'all not friends no more. I'm like, if you think the girl is grimy, she did something grimy, it proves your point. Your
Yeah.
point. Leave it
Yeah.
alone. Like, why are we arguing about these dumb things? But Cherise said it best. Like, she allowed social media to get into her head. She always pops off. And typical Candace, she gets her little triangle napkin, wipes
Quiet.
her triangle, wipes, and then leaves the room because she has no argument.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Candace has this victim complex where she has to be seen as the one who was wronged, and everybody else is the problem. Everybody else is
Mm-hmm.
the one that caused her an issue, right? And I completely agree with you. Robin at no point has deviated from what she said from the very beginning. And I don't know if it was this past episode, um I don't know if it was yesterday's episode or from the week before, she said she regrets defending Chris Bassett at this point because of everything that has come from it. And
Yeah.
like I get where she's coming from because of the fact that it's dragged on and it's become something insane that just doesn't make sense anymore. And I feel like the fact is that Candace is, I think she is just like really hurt. And so she's wanting to hurt Robin back. Whereas Robin is just like cutting her losses. Okay, we just ain't gonna be friends. Like that's it. I think Robin is a very like, yeah, gray kind of, there's no gray areas, black and white kind of person.
You know what I wanted to call this episode, or what they should have called this episode? Hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah.
Because we see this, and we'll probably talk about it later on. Mia and Jacqueline, how
Yeah.
they were able to, do some kind of resolution, reconciliation. Everything's out on the table. Maybe, they'll get to a better place. But here, clearly, like you said, Candace is hurt
Hmm.
because of Giselle. I say that wholeheartedly. And she's lashing out at Robin because Robin is at least speaking to her. If she can't be combative with one green eye bandit, I guess I have to take the consolation prize,
Yeah.
which is Robin.
That's just so, it just it just really doesn't make any sense anymore. I
Mhm.
think the same way that like, the Wendy Nneka thing dragged on for so long, I think this has dragged on for so long. And it just doesn't even feel like there's any point to it. And the fact that, there doesn't seem to be a pathway forward. It's like, I don't know. You might as well just like drop it at this point because we're just going around in circles. And now, like you mentioned, the whole messages thing, Candace is now finding a new reason to,
Mhm.
act
Be
like
a-
she's the one, yeah, like she's the one that's been wronged. So, anyway, moving on. So, as friend of the show, Charisse is best utilized in small doses. She is connected enough to have individual relationships with the bulk of the cast, save for Karen, and can be trusted to clock in and try to move a story forward. That was clearly the intent of her crab boil. A misnomer, as it was actually a Maryland crab feast with steamed boiled crabs, which is neither here nor there. Where both Jackie slash Mia and Robin slash Candace would have a chance to hopefully come to terms over a well cooked crustacean. Trouble was already on the horizon when the crabs came to the table with no butter or seasoning, salt. It is a crime to throw a crab event in the Baltimore area without heavy amounts of Old Bay at guest disposal, meaning that the women were barely eating as the drinks were flowing. Jacqueline's return to the show, while a bit hectic, has been much needed for you viewers to see some gestures towards closure in her relationship with Mia. Despite her claims to the contrary, Jacqueline was understandably holding a significant amount of bitterness in the fallout of her 30-year long friendship with Mia. How else would you possibly feel if an ex bestie took a body joke about getting some more D to such extreme levels as allegations of intimate partner violence? The duo do eventually have their one on one away from the bushel of crabs, and it is probably some of the most honest TV this season. Um, Give me just 1 second, guys, because my computer decides to start making noises right about now. Okay. Jacqueline um admits that she feels she has given Mia a lot of passes due to the prior assault that she experienced, and Jacqueline feels guilty for. And Mia confirms that she has been punishing Jacqueline for a situation none of them can go back and change. It is also revealed that Jacqueline didn't know for 2 years, which is a long time for hurt and pain to fester between friends when something of this magnitude isn't being confronted. It is no surprise that their dynamic unraveled when subjected to outside pressure of cameras when they have never truly healed from that wound. Jacqueline doesn't forgive Mia's behavior and insists that Lady Thornton needs to work through her temper issues, but it is a substantial step forward from a few hours prior when she was calling Mia evil, and sometimes that is all you can ask for. So, yeah, before moving on to the next group here, what do we think about that situation? Because I thought that was a very interesting scene.
I just love how Mia comes into a room and she's completely unbothered. She doesn't care who's there. She's gonna be Mia Thornton. She's like, "Hey, Jacqueline," like they were best friends again. Like nothing happened. I'm like, "Oh, okay." But there comes Giselle stirring the pot again. It's like you said everything was fine, but it wasn't. Why does she do that? I'm like, Giselle, hush, hush. But when they finally got the talking, I thought it was going to be very explosive, but
Yeah,
it got me like really into my feelings. I was like, man, it's just, it made me so sad
yeah,
just to think of, everything that Mia went through. And, they were kids, which by the way, the math isn't mathing because if they've been friends for 30 years, that puts them at a solid 45. But Mia says she's 38, but I'm not counting. I'm just saying.
no, no, we don't know how to do math on this
We
channel.
don't know how to do math. But just trying to imagine Mia's situation with her parents, then going through something traumatic like that, then your bestie, you kind of place this all these events, like all this negative energy, and you think that your bestie caused it, that's hurtful, like somebody you thought was close to you. But then
Yeah,
it turns out that she didn't know anything about it. So, somebody carrying guilt, somebody carrying pain,
yeah,
it's hard to see. And I think it's very hard to heal from.
yeah,
But I love that Mia is going to therapy. She's very aware of what she's doing. Will
yeah,
she change? I don't know, but hopefully, they can become, better friends and in a healthy kind of way, as healthy as it can get.
yeah.
Because there is love there.
Oh, for sure. I think it's insane that, well, for one thing, Mia went through what she went through and kept it in and didn't talk to her best friend immediately about it. That that's pretty insane to like hold that in. And then for Jacqueline, she finds out 2 years later and then she doesn't immediately talk to Mia about it. Like that was also like, why? Like that just seems strange to me, given that they've had this lifelong friendship, and so this unresolved issue has been going on for so long, and I'm just like, why didn't you guys ever talk to one another? And I know that obviously in some instances it's not very easy given especially that subject matter, to discuss certain things with people. But um clearly we see the consequences of not having these conversations, however difficult they may be, because
Mhm.
despite Mia holding this against Jacqueline, she remained friends with her, but almost seems like she used the friendship to get back at her. Like by kind of um
Mistreating her.
mistreating her, but also like kind of keeping her below her in a way. Um and with Jacqueline, I think it is very clear that her guilt allowed for all of these passes of the treatment that Mia was giving her. So we have basically this snowballed effect of decades of both sides having a very unbalanced relationship. And like you said, I'm glad that Mia is getting therapy. I'm glad she's getting, her help. um but I think Jacqueline probably also needs to, like, do some therapy and all that stuff. I'm glad that they didn't, like, blow up, or that when it was suggested that they go have a talk, they didn't like shut it down. I'm glad that they actually went forward with it, which is indicative to me that there's real, genuine love there. You
Mhm.
know, a real, genuine friendship, even if right now it's estranged. I think at least we know it exists, in comparison to the other drama on the show. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think it's very sad, but I think their dynamic has remained like that. I think because probably Mia has a stronger personality
Oh
and
yeah,
Jacqueline is more, you know, what's the word?
subdued.
Subdued. That's the
Yeah,
word I was looking for. So, Mia, if you don't stand up to her, Mia can trample all over you, overtake you,
yeah,
especially if she's like more famous, has more money, she's more established, and then Jacqueline is like feeling guilty, is
yeah,
going through probably financial trouble. I don't know if her house was getting foreclosed or not, or
yeah,
whatever her situation is. So, Mia didn't have anything. So what does she do? She tries to get the most to be on top. So I
yeah,
think that dynamic never changed, and Jacqueline never stood up to her. Also, be like, "Hey, you can't treat me this way." So maybe, you're right. Maybe having therapy would also be beneficial to her. They need to definitely work on having a more even
yeah.
relationship and, respect and things like that.
I think the last thing that I'll say on it is that I with Jacqueline, it kind of also showed, because we've been saying for like weeks and weeks and weeks during all of our recaps how Mia just don't care about anything. Mia lets everything like fall off, roll off her shoulders. But with Jacqueline, this is the one thing that clearly has been like hurting her, that has been like getting to her.
Hmm.
So it also shows again the fact that this is something that really mattered to her. This is something that really affected her. Because aside from that, like, you could throw anything at me and she don't care. But when it comes to Jacqueline, it's been pretty, obvious that she cared. Like that was important to her. So I think the fact that she was finally able to like open up to her, and that and Jacqueline knew immediately what it was like, okay, so this has been like pretty much on the surface, just
Hmm.
just beneath the surface. And all of this needed to happen to get to this point where you guys have this discussion. So like, you know, unfortunately it had to like go down this way, but like maybe that, yeah, like that's the whole point of it all, is to get to a better place. But
But setting aside this 30-year relationship with Jacqueline and Mia, I think that that particular episode really showcased the importance of having a conversation.
yeah.
Like, which is something that the ladies always fail to do. Like,
Hmm.
all right, so we're here talking about it. Like normal human beings, we're
Yeah.
actually listening to each other. We know the underlying issue and we're trying to get through it which the other ladies, they're on their stance, whatever it is. Hey, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. They walk out, you know, and that's not effective TV. Like, it leaves us bothered as fans, and there's like no conflict resolution, which
Yeah.
is what we really want. So
Yeah.
even though Jacqueline and Mia aren't lovey-dovey right now, but at least they're trying to work through it. And I think that would
Yeah.
make fans happy to see that from the other ladies when they have conversations.
Yes, entirely. Whew. All right. So, while Jacqueline and Mia found common ground, Candace and Robin are more disparate than ever. Unwilling to accept Charisse's pleas that the duo move forward in their relationship, not only do they resume their usual bickering, Candace brings out evidence of a claim that Robin was sending their conversation to bloggers. I know this is supposed to be incendiary as a reality Von T scandal of RHOSLC showed us, admitting to building relationships with bloggers is very taboo in the reality community, but it isn't really coming out in the wash for me. Any sensible person at this point knows that reality stars push their own narratives to page six, people, TMZ, bloggers, vloggers, and podcasters at will. Many
Mhm.
of the biggest Bravo podcasters are former cast members themselves who leverage their inside relationships and knowledge to get followers. But this isn't about two T's in a pod with Teddy and Tamra. It's about the fact that Candace feels vindicated and proving that Robin uses her social capital to prove her point. The same way that Candace publicly does interviews with blogs and opines on social media. To that I say, okay, it feels like an empty win and one that doesn't really accomplish anything. Although editing's deep throat voiceover hijinks, as Candace played her corroborating voice notes over were amusing. There was like a weird little voiceover thing that happened because what she was her lips were moving and it wasn't the same thing that was coming out in the audio. I thought that was odd. As usual with these two, nothing is resolved, and Robin is more convinced that nothing is salvageable between them. Charisse drunkenly screams at them, a mildly shocking but amusing insight as to how she acts when let loose. And Candace eventually picks up her handkerchief, dabs at the corners of her eyes, and makes her exit. As the singing diva admits, she heads out the door. Don't cry. This is what I do. Hopefully, she and the group as a collective can break free of the patterns that hold them hostage soon. Next week, the GNA Athleisure line makes its unseemly debut and all hell breaks loose between Deborah and Kiarna. See you all then. What? I saw like the
You
clip,
felt just something.
my phone fell because I was like, wait a minute, because I saw that the preview for next week, and I heard that Deborah, I'm assuming that's Ashley's friend, the one that
Elmo? What is it? Big
Happy
Bird?
was it Big Bird? I don't remember, but she's the one who called Eddie Happy Eddie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Her. I was
but
like, who is Deborah? I couldn't think of it.
but
Terrible.
I didn't know that it's Kierna she's fighting with.
You
What?
know, I'm really loving Kierna. I don't care what nobody says. She has
You
done more in the last 3 episodes than Neka has done in 16. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there. We saw her business
we
more
did.
so than the other ladies because Robin bought a spa. Why hasn't she invited nobody to her spa?
That's true.
With Juan Dixon when he lost his job because of the whole scandal thing.
Damn.
Whatever.
Wow.
Neither here nor there.
What
Robin,
about
they have a podcast. Robin has a podcast with Giselle. We never hear about it. The Grand Dame hasn't broadcasted her La Dame perfume since that Parfum de Marley
yeah,
episode. Like
or
we
her
haven't,
candles?
or her candles. Wendy, they always make her look like a dumbass because again, I mean, I just hated that particular scene because it just shows like the stark contrast between somebody that got their shit together and somebody who does not. It's like, is your talk show happening? And now she has a whole talk show, but she doesn't have guests. Like, isn't that the first thing you got to think about?
Ooh.
Why are you looking like that? But I'm just saying, she's so
Bombs at me. What can I say? I can't argue. It's like you're being media right now. What am I gonna say?
Whatever. So every time she's trying to launch something, it fails or she's unsuccessful or she doesn't follow through. So here we have somebody who just started the show as a friend or probably auditioning to be a main housewife. And we're seeing her shit together. She's not afraid to speak, put people in their place. People respect her for it.
Mm-hmm.
And Wendy is looking like a dodo head, which we know she is not.
Right.
I hate that they do that to her. I
Yeah,
think Housewives needs a real shakeup at this point because Candace's storyline is getting old.
it is.
She, like we said on previous episodes, she's not talking to anyone. Nobody wants to talk to Wendy. Wendy is noticeably absent this episode. How many times has she done this now?
Yep.
She did it in another episode where she was doing a book signing. So it
Right.
seems like every time NECA is in a scene, Wendy is not. Very few. But like when there's like big events, the Parfum de Marley, she wasn't there.
There.
This crab boil where everything was supposed to be, hashed out, she wasn't there. I think there
Right.
was another episode this season, she wasn't there.
Yeah.
So what's the point of Wendy being there at this point? NECA, she tries to straddle the fence too much for me. Trying to be, even a nicer Karen. Oh, you look so beautiful in blue. No, start some drama, girl. Not the drama you came with because that was a little too heavy. But just some light drama. Like get mad at Ashley about something. I don't know. We just need Giselle's not even being shady. She tried to be today and it just fell off. Like I
Yeah.
never would have thought that Giselle would not be like a main character in Potomac. This is what, season 8? And she fell off. She fell off her first chair. She's fallen off these last few seasons. She's barely even talking because she doesn't want to talk to the people that she doesn't like. So what's the
Yeah.
purpose of her being there? Robin's storyline again is all about Juan Dixon. I'm surprised I haven't heard about him, but he's the underlying
Yeah.
factor person of, her existence. What
Yeah.
about Robin? Oh, Juan Dixon.
Yeah.
And who else is left? Karen, I don't know. She's acting a fool because we need content.
Yeah.
Ashley, like you mentioned, she can't talk about anything. So what's the point of her being there? Even
Yeah.
though, we did discuss, she's a single mom. We can see that evolution of hers, like her navigating all that, which
Yeah.
would be great. And I guess we'll see it next episode with the GNA. But
Right.
all the housewives are lame. Mia's the only one that keeps it spicy at this point. She gives us
Yeah.
what we're looking for. No, I went on a rant.
Oh, I completely agree with everything. And I'd like to apologize to Kiarna because I couldn't for the life of me before get her name right. But man, you are the real MVP so far. I know we've said that about Mia. Mia, she still got the title, but you're getting up there with her, ma'am. 3 episodes? 3. And she's already like done so much. And then
Mhm.
the next episode, she's got beef. Ma'am,
Who
you're
are they
hitting
gonna
me
kick
right.
out?
Okay. So I really think it should be between Candace, Wendy, and Giselle. Like one
Hmm.
or two of them gotta go. And I really hope that
Candace, Wendy, or Giselle? Hmm.
I honestly I feel that it would probably be Wendy and Giselle. Because Candace at least gets along with Ashley, with Karen, with NECA. She gets along enough with some of them. And when they're all drunk, like they party together. And so I feel like at least like maybe they can kind of move that along a little bit. Um, but but she could easily be on the chopping block as well. But just right now, based on like everything you were saying, I think Giselle and Wendy, that would be.
I just feel like Giselle's the housewife staple for Potomac. So I don't think they'll ever kick her out. They'll probably tell her bring it up a notch.
I'm sure they have been though, and she has not delivered.
She hasn't.
This GNA thing next week, it doesn't even seem like it's gonna be about her anyway. Because there's gonna be a fight.
I can't
So
wait.
I was watching this with my partner, and tell me why he was so excited when he saw that clip. I was like, "This is what you're waiting for?"
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
but it
She,
can't be Wendy or Candace. I feel like if one of them leaves, it's gonna leave Potomac lopsided. Now there's one true outcast, which will be either Wendy or Candace.
I think. Okay, so here's my theory. Right, for
Mm,
sure, it's got to be Giselle. For sure. So if it's Wendy and Candace stays, I think the new drama or the new clique might eventually become Karen, Candace, and one of the other ladies, maybe Kiarna if she actually joins like fully, and then it'll be on the other side Mia, Robin, NECA, and it'll be Ashley, the one straddling the fence. Because with Giselle gone, Karen has really no reason to still deal with Robin, right? Because they still have a little bit of a beef. So and we know that she's more aligned with Candace anyway. They talked about that last episode.
yeah.
And and I feel like she doesn't really care all that much for NECA, considering she's like the new grandam, all that crap. And I really didn't see her interact much with Kiarna, so I can see her kind of like going onto the other side, and then eventually befriending Kiarna to like develop a closer relationship.
Hmm.
Um, and and
Mm.
I feel like this season we've seen a lot more of Robin with other members of the cast besides Giselle. We've seen her have a solo lunch with NECA. We've seen her have Charisse and people over at her house. I think there was even a time where she had somebody over her. Was it Mia? Mia, yeah, she's had stuff with Mia where Giselle was in there. So there's been, I feel like little
Us.
maybe.
Nah.
That's my conspiracy theory of the day.
My final thought, I think that Bravo should put in all their contracts that they can't sue each other. Because as soon as something happens, oh, defamation, oh, harassment, oh, what's the other one that Giselle used? I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on the word.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Allegation, like just throw out these words. Some of these housewives, I'm trying to be funny right now, can't even spell some of these words or know this legal jargon. I'm kidding, guys. But, I think it's unnecessary. Candace is what, gonna be sued for the third time? It's kind of ridiculous, girl.
I mean, Monique. I mean, Michael Darby. I mean, the litigious aspect needs to definitely come to an end here because it's making the show a little uncomfortable. Because now you got people, oh, I can't talk about this. I can't talk about that. Then why are you here? That's
Yeah.
literally the whole purpose of you being on the show. But anyway, let's get to the cherry blossoms of the episode. Okay.
Mhm.
Number one, it was touching for the show to devote a full segment to Giselle sending Grace off to college. We have seen her grow up into a beautiful young woman, and the love between them is clear. Grace doing a solo confessional to give her mom praises as her last scene on the show was sweet. I did love that. That
Yeah.
was like, and then I mean, again, I'm not so much of a Giselle fan anymore, but especially now, Grace gone and the twins, I think they're gonna be leaving soon. I think you mentioned this last recap. What really is there for Giselle to do?
Mhm.
And so this episode and in particular that scene, I think really drove it home that like this is what, huh?
She gotta go.
Yeah, like this is really the bulk of what, because they kind of help to make people feel a little bit more warmer feelings toward Giselle, right? The scenes with her daughters, it just makes people feel a little bit more like this is the more relatable aspect of her. But then when you have her in other scenes where she's just like really not doing anything, or like I'm not talking to this person, that like it makes people disconnect from her. So I
Mhm.
feel like now that Grace is gone off to college and the two little ones are left, but they're not going to be there for much longer, there won't be much to really make people feel that sympathy or that love for Giselle like, before. And one thing I will say, it literally triggered a memory for me that had me bawling my eyes out during the scene
Mm.
because like as they were, I think it was the sisters, right? They were saying goodbye to Grace, and then Grace is in the car, and they're driving away, and she's like dabbing her eyes, and I was like, oh my god! It just reminded me
Uh-huh.
of when my family dropped me off in Miami when I moved back, and they left without saying goodbye because it was like hard for them, and I was like, what? Like I wanted to say goodbye, and so there I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so emotional, and then my partner's like, you'll be all right. Thanks, sir. Thank you. Dried up
But
all my tears after that.
you know what I found sad? It was just the fact that Giselle's like, man, I raised these girls since they were like 1 or 2 as a single parent. And I was
No.
like, damn you, Jamal. I'm like,
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
like, that must have been, very tough. And you could say that her kids are her blanket, so
Yeah.
her finding her new identity is going to be, I think, pretty tough on her when they're
Yeah,
all gone.
definitely. Definitely. Because I mean, you also see like that um with the other moms, the younger moms, they're having to do these activities with the kids and do all these other things with the kids, and so there's not going to be much in terms of like that sort of thing for Giselle. And then you have like NECA and supposedly Candace, they're trying to get pregnant, so there's a lot of like motherhood aspects to their scenes, their storylines, and all that.
Mm,
But with Giselle, that's the primary thing. And I think what you said is like the perfect example. The kids are the blanket for her. There really isn't much more that she's got going on, honestly.
mm.
So at least we'll see next week, I guess, with GNA or whatever the hell that's called. Um so next, Cherry Blossom, Karen inventing a crab allergy for Ray to get out of attending Charisse's all-cast event is so childish and petty in a way that only Karen can pull off. I may be frustrated with the way that the cast has refused to fully participate all season, but Karen has been more than pulling her weight and gets one freebie from me. I
Hmm.
have to agree. I have to agree. She definitely does pull her own weight. So at this point, it's like, okay, she doesn't have to be there for this one.
I could see that, but Karen is usually upfront with things, and if she doesn't like her, be like, "Yo, stop inviting me. I'm not gonna go." Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And she said that in the confessional. She's like,
but
"I
she
don't like
hasn't
Sharice."
told
Sharice's like,
them that.
"Yeah." And so that's why I feel like, ma'am, like Robin is saying, I don't want to be friends with Candace out loud to everybody in Candace's face. Just go ahead and do the same thing. Like, get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Sharice's amusing side stands out much more in small doses, insisting she has no issue with Karen while calling her the grand scam, asking about happy endings massages, clocking Nneka's Party City crown. These are quick, cheeky moments that hit better when she is not taking up too much screen time. More of this next season. I would like to say that they had been teasing this whole thing all season with Sharice yelling at somebody. And that was so anticlimactic, y'all.
That's the boiling point that we were talking about. Lame.
Boiling point to what?
I
What?
don't
What was
know.
she?
Like, she was just mad, and she just. I'm like, why are you even upset? Like, it was so confusing that the ladies were confused, and they usually don't get what's going on. They were like, what is she mad at? And then she just stormed out. I'm like, girl, party's over. I'm done.
All I kept saying the whole time, like, why don't you just kick these bees out? Why are you getting mad? Just kick them out. It's
Yeah.
your. I was very confused. Very confused.
But just
Um,
it's funny though. She said, "Oh, my girl's drunk." It's like just don't mind her. She drunk.
real friends know. Real friends know.
Hmm.
Mia in the middle of a serious discussion with Jacqueline, casually saying, "Could you imagine a 65-year-old man married to a young tenderoni like me is so unserious that I could not help but burst into laughter." I sure did.
I did too. I'm like, did she say tenderoni? And then immediately I thought beefaroni, like the raviolis. And then Jacqueline was like, he's not 65, he's 72. And I'm like, well, damn. Look who's doing math now. And she was like, oh, maybe. I'm like, how old is Gordon? How old is Mia? How old is Jacqueline? Plus 30, minus 10. I don't know. Somebody tell me their ages, please.
Well, according to Mia, she's a young tenderoni. Um, when I heard that, all I thought about was PYT, and I'm like,
The Michael
ma'am,
Jackson song?
is it? It's not a Michael Jackson song. Pretty Young Thing.
Yeah.
Is it a Michael Jackson song? I thought it was Bobby Brown's people. I forget their
Am I loud and wrong? I guess we'll see. Right?
name.
Oh, pretty young. I'm not sure. It's
Like when she said that, I was like, did she? I burst out laughing. I was like, did she really just call her a
no
young?
Michael Jackson.
It is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was
Maybe
what's
they
his
have another one.
yeah, I don't know. But either way, when she said that, I was like, it is so unserious. It really is so anyway.
But I
I
can
can't
appreciate it because in those moments of seriousness, when we're talking, I'm like, can I interrupt and say something dumb because it's getting too serious? Can I say something? So that's what it also reminded me of.
your icebreakers, yes,
My
that
little
is
icebreakers. I'm like, you know what? Let me tell you this knock knock joke.
damn dumb. Um final cherry blossom of the week. What was with the terrible editing in the fight between Candace and Robin? Were they trying to dub over a name that Candace said and just use ADR to say blogger slash podcaster? It was such an obvious patch job that it was briefly disorienting. Very true. I was confused. I was like, did we mess something up here? Like, what's going on?
Honestly, I didn't notice it because I was like in and out watching it. But
Yeah.
maybe they hired Kate Middleton's people.
Keep that same energy, ma'am, when we go and do that one. Because keep that same energy.
Guys, let us know what you think about this episode. What do we think about Mia and Jacqueline and a possible reconciliation? What do we think about Charisse just storming off and stomping and slapping tables? What do we think about Giselle? Is she going to get kicked out of the show? Kierna. What do we like
Kiarna.
Kierna?
It is Kiarna.
Kierna, yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Kiearna. Kierna.
I don't know the spell. Don't get me wrong again. I know the pronunciation, ma'am.
Kiarna. What do we think about Kiarna? Is she a housewife? Should she stay? Let us know in the comments. But that concludes today's episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, please share our video. We're trying to grow our community so your friends could be our friends and we can all be friends. We also have social media, which Dee will tell you about.
We are on TikTok and Instagram. Hear me out, DNE. So make sure you guys like, follow, share, and comment. We enjoy interacting with y'all.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.